all over the country.
The little beats in me will die.
The federal government started beating the drum that our guns are causing the Mexican crises, which everybody knew that was ridiculous. It's the corrupt society, the drug war, all of it. They lie and say it's our guns, so they start going to gun shows. They did it in Austin and having illegals go in and all day try to do a private purchase, not from a gun dealer, but somebody trying to sell their private gun to shut down, quote, the gun show loophole, which is nothing but gun registration. And then they go into these gun shops and tell them, you're going to sell hundreds of guns, and now it's starting to come out. It was basically the ATF had set the whole thing up. It was their sub-criminal group. That's what they're scared is about to come out fully, coming in and buying them, then bringing them back, and then trying to get them back into the U.S. or trying to connect them to crimes in Mexico to frame the Second Amendment. And I said this a year and a half ago. Now they've been caught doing it. Colonel Craig Roberts, looking at this, there should be an immediate move for impeachment immediately. I mean, is this not seditious behavior against the Republic?
Well, absolutely. It's, when you go out and purposely violate the law, violate your own laws, where does it stop? You can't do that. You can't have, we just had 3 police officers here go to trial, and one of them ended up going to prison after doing over 20 years on the police department. He was already retired because at one time the way that they handled their informants and the drug deals and the drug money and what they were doing with it and so on down the line, and they ended up, as soon as this one guy got convicted, when he stood up, 2 marshals grabbed him and hauled him off. Now, he'd been a police officer all his life, and that was very small compared to what we see that happened in Arizona with this gun walker thing, where it went on and on and on and on, and they're saying, well, we're following these guns. You can't follow those guns across the border. The Mexican government wasn't even involved in it. Mexican law enforcement, which is about as corrupt as their government, it wasn't involved in it. There was no way to track these guns. What they were doing was they were making sure that hundreds, if not thousands of guns were ending up south of the border that could be traced back here so that when they did end up in crimes on our side of the border, we could say, look, these came from American gun shops, because they knew that if they didn't supply the guns and make sure that they got down there, that the guns they did find would have come from Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Guatemala, El Salvador.
Germany.
Yeah, Germany.
Now remember, though, this is the same ATF that likes to pull stunts like Waco, and they did the little detonation test blowing up a Ryder truck months before OKC, and they were the boys that showed up a minute after in their full bomb suits and told folks, patch them up, they've been on the 9th floor. I mean, these are some really nice people at the higher levels, but then you've got the good ATF guys blowing the whistle on this internally. I mean, this is a group of criminals.
Well, yeah, and here now here's another deal. You got just one drug cartel down there has 19 airliners, 4-engine, 2-engine jet airliners that they can fly anywhere in the globe hauling drugs. They can fly to Russia, they can fly to the Middle East, and they can trade those drugs for all the fully automatic Kalashnikovs and AR or M16s or FNFALs they want, and bring them back by the caseload, and grenade launchers and RPGs, and they could buy tanks if they wanted them.
By the way, now they've got giant armored vehicles that look bigger than Blackwater's Grizzly.
Yeah, they call them the narco tanks.
But they got that at a gun shop, Colonel.
Yeah, right. They just went in and got one. They had probably a dozen of them out back. These people, are capable of getting anything they want, anytime they want. They've got all the money in the world to do it with. They've got all the contacts to do it with. They don't need some piddly gun shop in Tucson, Arizona to sell them guns. Our government has people in it that says, oh, wait a minute, we can't have that. We got to have our guns end up in the hands of the narco terrorists.
Look, is it not a false flag? I mean, is this not stage terror?
Yeah, it is. It's to create the problem so we can have a solution.
Stay there, Colonel. Back in 1 minute. Man, there is so much news to go over. Greece is teetering on the edge. They're holding the country hostage, the foreign banks, saying turn your entire population's GDP over to us or we're going to bankrupt you. The Project Gunrunner whistleblower is under fire, even though the head of the ATF's been caught lying in emails. Now we know lied to Congress, that they did know what was going on. They said they knew nothing, but it turned out the highest levels ordered it and had video cameras installed in the gun shops. I mean, this is a big deal, Colonel Roberts, because if they've been caught setting this up, lying to Congress, lying to the public, and doing it to blame the Second Amendment. And they'd already launched the demonization by the time they got caught. And the head of the ATF is refusing to step down. Where is Congress hauling this guy in? Where's the Justice Department? Oh, the head of the Justice Department was the deputy head of the Justice Department who helped cover things up at OKC. Now I understand why nobody's getting in trouble.
Well, you know, we've got a weak Congress. There are a bunch of weak sisters up there. You know, the Tea Party guys went up there, but I haven't seen them really do a lot yet. And they all get up there, drink the Potomac River water, and they all become part of the system. It's just out of control. But the thing about it is, every one of these people in this chain of command that not only thought this up, but implemented it, and I'm not talking about the field agents that were told to do it. I'm talking about the brass, needs to go to prison. It's as simple as that. They broke the law intentionally, and they did it for some very terrible, evil purposes, and that was to subjugate the Constitution, pure and simple. I mean, let's just get to the point here. And every one of them needs to go to trial, and they need to go to federal penitentiary. Because if they don't, no one in the world can be guilty of a crime again, period, in this country. That's just the way it is. If they escape, everybody should escape. They might as well just open up all the prisons and let everybody out. Because, you know, there's no such thing as someone that's immune from the law just because of their position or who they work for. And, you know, we got police officers go to jail all the time. Politicians sometimes go to jail. But, you know, I saw this Blagojevich. What's his name? Blagojevich?
Yeah, Blagojevich.
Yeah, I can't ever say it. But anyway, he gets convicted on, 17 counts?
Yes.
And I don't see him in jail yet. I don't see him doing the perp walk yet.
Well, more than that, he's obviously a slime bag, but they've destroyed most of the tapes. We know Obama and all of them are involved in the same stuff, and Obama getting free houses and all this. And we see a low-level vice president at Citibank getting indicted for supposedly stealing $19 million, but he stole it from the bankers. But then when mega banks like Wells Fargo and their subsidiary are caught laundering $376 billion in 2 years, confirmed they did it, they don't even get in trouble. So they always burn little low-level people.
Oh yeah, yeah. And if you start chasing, and like I did it in some of my books, if you start chasing the narco money over the last 30 years, or all the way back to Vietnam. Let's go all the way back to the Golden Triangle days when Shackley Kleins and all that bunch were there. And all the opium was coming out of the Golden Triangle and Laos. And you start following everything from the Nugan Bank to the WDNBB or whatever it was, bank in Honolulu, to the BCCI, the Bank of North Little Rock, and all the rest of these banks that are involved in money laundering, and to Iran-Contra, and to the cocaine coming out of the Medellin and Cali cartels that were set up both by the CIA, or at least by Ted Shackley. You start chasing all this stuff, and then you find the money goes into Middle Eastern banks, it goes into the Caymans, and it goes into the New York City mega banks, and that's where it gets laundered. So all the drugs that they buy in Mexico eventually gets laundered through New York City and the mega banks, so they're protected.
It's incredible. And they then bust some of the low-level competition and then fill the prisons with nonviolent offenders while the violent go free. Colonel Craig Roberts is our guest. We're going to continue picking his brain on a host of issues. We're going to get his take next on the TSA and see what his view is of the overall police state here in the Republic. We'll get more into the economy as well with Colonel Craig Roberts on the other side. Going over some of the headlines with Colonel Craig Roberts of RifleWarrior.com, who joins us. Fukushima in Nebraska, rising floodwaters threaten nuclear catastrophe. Locals told us 2 weeks ago this was going on. Now AP and others confirm it. And they're on generator power, and it's with the history of the government lying, who knows what's going to happen. Los Alamos has had fires go right up to their facilities, and that whole area is radioactive from testing, so the fires reignite that and put it into the atmosphere. Radiation levels are going up, so the EPA has just raised the level of what they say safe. Also, cancer surges and body scanner operators, TSA launching cover-up. This could bring the whole thing down, that the government knowingly, they've got the internal memos from the TSA people that of them covering up the cancer clusters and the fact that they're being blasted with radiation. Just incredible information in Paul Joseph Watson's article. Please get this out to everyone. Cancer surges and body scanner operators, TSA launching cover-up. Also, Greek Prime Minister says austerity is patriotic duty, even though 90+% of the money is not owed by the Greek people. It's the central banks bought off their president and finance minister and got them to sign on to the debt. It's called too big to fail. Then you give them your tax money, then they charge you interest for you giving it to them. Yeah, that's how dumb they think we are. Continuing, a final Senate version of TSA bill in Texas, instead of stopping the TSA groping, authorizes it. Now that's incredible. The first bill said Fourth Amendment, you have no reasonable suspicion, you have no probable cause. Well, now the bill says, well, Texas redefines reasonable suspicion. So the bill was going to put them in jail. And it would force them to actually engage in reasonable suspicion. Now they're saying reasonable suspicion is just that you're at an airport. And it's actual, the Texas Law Enforcement Association, made up of political, police chiefs that are mainly federalized. They came out and went to Texas and said, we don't like this. We want to do what the feds are doing. This is a great new horizon. So David Dewhurst, the minion, and also Strauss, the Speaker of the House, along with Al Gore's former campaign chairman, Rick Perry, they killed the bill and brought it back and changed it, saying that basically the TSA can give your 1-year-old a proctology exam. Now that's political spin. We're going to tie your hands by throwing you in the briar patch, exactly what you want. Colonel Craig Roberts, what's your view on the TSA as a Marine, as an Army colonel, as a police officer, an investigator? What is your view of the TSA?
Well, it's a typical deal. It's an agency created out of thin air, all of a sudden overnight, utilizing personnel that had no training, no experience, and no expertise, and very little education. I remember right after 9/11, they just waved a magic wand, and all of these low-grade magnetic gate screeners that they had hired off the street as civilian contractees that worked for civilian companies with a different company at every airport, all of a sudden became federal agents. No training, no academy, no understanding of the laws, nothing. And so you had a lot of these people who've got the Wyatt Earp syndrome. Power went to their head. I've got a badge, and I'm powerful, and I can be tough, and look at me, and I get to be the drill instructor here at the airport, and you're going to line up and do what I say. It may have been also on purpose that they did this, because you've got people like that who are basically like the brown shirts, that eventually, because you have to go someplace, because you have to get on an airplane, because you have a schedule to keep, because you've got relatives to visit, business to do, whatever, you comply with get in line, shut up, take a number, do as we say. And once we get that cattle mentality, and we submit to that, then it's very easy to control a population. You control a population many ways, but one of the ways is by making them psychologically malleable to following orders, don't ask questions.
Bingo! And now it's spreading to high school proms with the TSA. Now it's spreading. The TSA is going to train and wave a magic wand, and now Texas police, New York police are suddenly allowed to grab your genitals and go down your pants. And now they're changing the definition of reasonable suspicion to, well, you're at a public place, or we just feel like it. I mean, this is really the end of our common law, the end of basic liberty. And it's the same thing that British citizens went to war with the King of England over, because he was stomping on their rights and doing the exact same type of garbage.
Okay, now here's the deal. What do we do to stop it? Well, it's real simple, but no one's addressing the issue. What people don't understand is we've become this follow orders, do as you're told, don't make waves, the nail that sticks up, get the hammer, keep your mouth shut, and then they'll get somebody else. They won't bother you. You'll be able to go on your way. What you have to understand is that is when you look at the mechanism as a whole. You cannot look at the TSA as this big machine with the federal government that has all this power. The way you have to look at it is you don't fight City Hall. You fight the individual in City Hall that you're going after. And what you do is any TSA agent that violates your constitutional rights, such as the groping and the Fourth Amendment stuff and all that sort of thing, you file on them. You sue them personally under 42 U.S.C. 1983. That makes them personally, their government position cannot protect them in a 1983 lawsuit.